Hello everyone and welcome to the Reading Boys Mock C review of paper 2. This is a mathematics paper. Let's have a look at the front cover. So again, these are the instructions, and what you'll notice of course is you're writing the answer, and this is different to so many of the other exams. But in much the same way as those, we will have 40 minutes to do the test. Obviously you'll have gone through these. I like to just include the instructions just so you can refresh and remind yourself. And again, if there are anything here that you're unsure of, by all means ask. I will try and replicate the working that I would expect you guys to be producing, although of course you can get the answer without needing the working, by all means do. As I say, it's for you to judge. You always want enough working to get the answer correct, but no more, and that's something that each to their own decides. So again, it's a 40-minute test, that's fine. Looking here, we have some practice questions, and let's just go through those now. So obviously the practice questions are in part, and this is sort of the primary method, is to make sure that you know how to write the answers in correctly. They shouldn't be the most challenging maths questions, so you can also take the time to just think about how many questions you're going to have to answer and the amount of time you're going to have to do those questions in. So in this case, if there are 35 questions for 40 minutes, you know that if you were to do one question a minute, you'd have 5 minutes at the end for checking, which I think is a really good pace. And that's something to bear in mind, because if you then find yourself you spent 3 minutes on a question, you know it's probably the time to cut and run and move on to the next question. So don't forget that during this practice question, as well as contemplating the answers here, I would strongly suggest thinking through your approach to the entire paper, and even perhaps even jotting down some notes and some formulae you've been learning. Things like that can all be done quite successfully in this time. So to start with, we have 26 times 3. Again, method of your choice here. The answer is 78. I think probably I would just do 26 doubled and add another 26 on, rather than actually writing out any words for this one here. What is 3/4 minus a quarter? This one might be worth writing out. So 3/4 minus a quarter. I'll just see it set out, hopefully. Nice and easy to see. That will become 2/4, which is 1/2 simplified. That's my final answer, 1/2, which is known as 1/2. And finally, 20% of 200. Again, let's be good. Method there, 10% would be 20, therefore 20% would be 40. And I'd be satisfied with that as my working. It shouldn't take too long. So let's jump straight into it. We've got the answers, questions and answers down the side. So this first one, actually let's fix that because you can't quite see it at the top there. There. What is 417 plus 132? 7 and 2 is 9, 1 and 3 is 4, and 4 and 1 is 5. So 549 is my answer. Next number in the sequence, in this case I always like to write the difference. In this case it becomes +3, then we have +4, then we have +5. And by taking the time to write this out, I can see the sequence is increasing by 1 each time. So the next sequence is going to be +6, and 31 plus 6 gives us 37 as an answer. We've then got 218 divided by 16. I would use a bus stop for this. And many people might often ask me, long division is something I struggle with. How do I do it? My answer tends to be, I don't. I tend to use the short division approach for all the questions, including these, which otherwise could be done using long division. So how do I do that? Well, let me show you. So 16 goes into 2 0 times, so I carry the 2. 16 goes into 28. How many times? Well, 16 times 2 is 32, so it only goes in once. So it does have a remainder. The remainder is 28 minus 16, which is going to be 12. So we carry that over to here. And so now we have to ask how many 16s go into 108. And this could be the part that causes some problems, because it's obviously a fairly large number. But I always find that if we just do our 16 times table down the side, and you can do this by just adding 16 each time. So 16, 32. In fact, I'll show you another trick. So that's 16, 32. Double that becomes 64. Double that again becomes 128. So now I just have to think how many 16s. Well, that's 1 16, 2 16s, 4 16s. So that right there would be 8 16s. So it goes in 8 times. And so the answer is 18. And so short division with a possible combination of just listing out either my times tables or listing out here, doubling each time so I can keep track of how many 16s go into a number, I find as a really useful way of just tackling these large division questions without having to resort to long division. Faster. So number 4, what is 19 to the power of 2? So 19 to the power of 2 is another way of saying 19 squared. So whatever your preferred method for multiplying in this case, 19 multiplied by 19 No reason not to set it out as one of these. So in this case, 9 times 9 is 81. So carry the 8, write the 1. 9 times 1 is 9, plus the 8 is 17, so 171. And then we've got, in this case, not 1, but 10 times 9, which is 90. And we've got then 10 times 10, not 1 times 1, so 10 times 10 is 100. So we put the 1 in the hundreds column. Again, notice how I'm saying 10 times 9, not 1 times 9. That's more correct. And then, of course, we have to add these two together. So we have 171, and 1 plus 0, 7 and 9, which is 16. And then 1, 1, and 3 is 3, so 361. And that's probably the most common way of doing it. But again, there are lots of methods for multiplying numbers. Whichever one that you're most comfortable with is the correct method, is the best method. So please don't worry about that. In this one, simple addition, also no, number 5 first. So the snake travelled 45 centimetres in the same time that the rabbit hopped 2.45 metres. How many metres further did it travel in the sail? So again, we want an answer here in metres. So we're doing 2.45 metres. Subtract 0.45 centimetres. And you'll notice because I wanted an answer to come out in metres, I've converted all my units to metres first, and now when I do my answer, 0, 0, and 2, my answer is already in meters, so 2 meters, which we can just write as 2. Sorry, here, now we have ourselves an addition, and my only advice for this kind of decimal addition and or subtraction would be to do the exact same kind of methods that we see before, but just make sure everything is lined up really nicely in place value. So 5, 6.44, add 22.38, 8 and 4 makes 12. We've then got 4 and 3 plus the 1 is 8. 6 and 2 is 8. Keep the decimal in the same place. And 5 and 2 is 7. So 78.82, my final answer. Right. Number 7. My flight left London. Oh, I'm going to have to modify this one as well. There you go, just down a little bit. So my flight left London at 10:24 a.m. and I landed in Manchester 1 hour and 37 minutes later. What time did I arrive? I'm going to show you this because I really liked this. For all of these styles of questions, I like dealing with the minutes, then the hours. So the first thing we'll do is 10:24, and 24 plus 37 is going to add to a total of 4 plus 7 is 11. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So that's 61 minutes. That's an hour and 1 minute, which means I have to then add the 1 hour to get from 10 to 11, plus the 1 hour from here to get to 11 to 12, plus the 1 over, so 12:01. And just by dealing with the minutes on the low numbers, I can then think, right, 61 minutes, that's 1 hour and 1 minute, and it then becomes much easier for me to sort of visualize and see where I'm going with the answer. Number 8, what is 4 to the power of 3 times 2 times 3 to the power of 2? I will just show you. I wouldn't necessarily write, I certainly wouldn't write this in the exam, but this means 4 times 4, 4 times 4 times 4, and 3 times 3, and whatever these answers are, I'm going to times by together. And certainly I would recommend learning my first 10 square numbers and probably my first 5 or 6 cube numbers, if not the first 10 of both. In this case, 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64, and 3 times 3 is 9, and now I have 64 times 9. And again, to show you a different method, I'll do a lattice style multiplication method. So here you've got 64 and 9. But again, the method I showed you earlier works as well. There are so many ways to multiply numbers that really you pick the one that you've been taught at school or pick one that is your favorite. In this case, this is the Chinese method or the lattice method. You do 9 times 6. A great little mental math trick for that is you do 10 times 6, which is 60, take away 6, which is 54, which is the answer to 9 times 6. Same trick, 10 times 4 is 40, take away 4 is 9 times 6, so 36. And now you add down these diagonal columns. So 6 add nothing is 6. 4 plus 3 is 7, and just 5. So you then read it, the answer as 576, which is the answer, 576. Just another way of multiplying. Number 9, a group of holidaymakers were asked which modes of transport they used in the last 3 holidays, and the results are shown in the Venn diagram. How many of the people didn't use the train. So I always like to make it really clear to myself, all of these individuals use the train, so I'm going to add every number that is not in my red circle. The fact that this person used a plane and train still means they're in the train group. So we have 34 plus 9 plus 20 plus 12, because remember these 20 didn't use any of them, but that does include the train. And with these I always recommend just looking to see if there's any easy maths. So for here, 34 plus 20 is going to be 54, plus 12 is going to be 66, and 66 plus 9 you may just want to write out, which adds to 75. But if you can get, for example, 8 plus 12 or any numbers that add together nicely, do those first, a little trick. Number 10, 3 pieces of luggage weigh 5.3 kilograms, 725 grams, and 412. How much do they weigh in total? In kilograms, again, let's do my conversions. So 5.300. Again, just adding these preemptively so I get my place value correctly. Again, this in kilograms is going to be 0.725 kilograms plus 0.412 kilograms. If it wanted an answer in grams, I would have converted it into grams first. I'd always try and make my life easy that way and reduce the number of conversions I'm going to have to do. In this case now, it's all laid out nicely. Just simply add. So that is 7, 3, that's 10 and 1, so 14. Keep the decimal in the same place, and 6. So 6.437 kilograms, which is 6,437 grams if it wanted it. In this case, kilograms is what it asked for. Right, let's post you over here. A square has a width of 10 centimeters. Sorry, and a square has a width of 9 centimeters. What's the area? Well, if it has a width of 9 centimeters and it's a square, it also has a height of 9. I know that area is base times height, so that's 9 times 9, which produces 81 centimeters squared. So should look like that as an answer. Number 12, I'm thinking of a number. I double it, add 40, then halve it. I end up with 30. What was the number I was thinking of originally? Okay, well, let's do it in reverse. So 30, the opposite of halving is doubling. So 30 times 2 equals 60. Then I add 40. So let's make that 60 look more like a 60. So we've got 60 minus 40, because that's the opposite of adding 40, which is 20. I double it, the opposite of that is halving it. So 20 halved is 10. My answer was 10. Again, with this, if you needed to at the end of time, you could always check it by putting this back into the question and getting the same answer again. Cube is 5 centimeters high. What's its surface area? Ooh, that's a good one. So here's my cube. Again, I like a nice little sketch because it helps organize my thoughts. So that may well be worth doing in your exam. I know that the surface area of a cube is going to be the area of one of these faces times by 6, because there's 6 sides. So if it's going to be 5 centimeters high, it's going to be 5 centimeters wide and 5 centimeters back. So those are my measurements. So the area of any of the faces will be 5 times 5, which is 25 centimeters squared. And that's then times by the 6 sides, 25 times 6, which is 150. There's a few ways of doing that. I think in your head, that one is one I'd expect you to be able to do. So 150 centimeters squared. Which is the highest number? Well, for these, again, just remember we're comparing from the front, so they all start with 4. Then we have a 1 and a 1, so immediately I can eliminate these options because they've got zeros in them. And then if I was just to read this as 4,102 and 4,109, I can see that 4,109 is larger than 4,102. In this case, it makes it the larger number. So again, the first numbers always have priority. Simple as that. Number 15. What is the size of the smallest angle between the two clock hands at 1:30? This one may well be worth drawing a clock. So again, if you want to draw a clock that's from 1 down to 6, if you want to label it, that's fine as well. A useful little tidbit, that's 1 o'clock, that's 6 o'clock, is that each gap between the hands, so between 1 and 2, is 30 degrees. And we know that because the entire circle is 360, and the clock face is divided into 12. So if we divide that by 12, we get 30 degrees as being the gap between 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and so on. So in this case, I now just have to simply count around how many of these hands I'm going to be able to see during an hour. And actually be aware, sorry, I should have drawn this more accurately. If it's at 1:30, the hand's going to be halfway between the 1 and the 2, not actually at 1 o'clock. So in this case, I'm going to have from 2 to 6 is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be the number of spaces. 4 times 15, excuse me, 4 times 30 degrees, which is 120. And I have to add on this halfway between 1 and 2, which is going to be 15 degrees. So 120 plus 15 equals 135 degrees. And again, the more fully you draw out the clock, the more easy that will be to spot, I think. So if you've got a clock on the wall as well, that's something that quite often will be in exam halls, so don't be afraid if you do have a clock-based question to sort of look up at the clock and use it in the exam room if you're fortunate enough to have one in there. But that will be your answer. 135 degrees. And again, just don't forget, of course, if it's at 1:30, it's half, even the hour hand is still going to be halfway between, for example, the 1 and the 2. So don't fall for that trick. Number 16. Jack goes to the shops. He buys 3 magazines at £4.50 each, a book at £9.50, and a cup of coffee at £2. How much did he spend? So £4.50 times 3 is going to be 2 of them would be £9. So £9 plus another £4.50 is going to be £13.50. To that he adds another £2. Let's get that to £15.50. £15.50. And then I'm going to add the £9.50. So that adds to a total of £1. That's another then £25 is the total. Not too bad. Good day out of the bookstore. Krishan has twice as many toys as Flo. Lucy has 3 times as many toys as Krishan. If they have 81 toys between them, how many does Flo have? So this is where I would actually start to use algebra. Now, I'll try and explain it in a way that works, even if you're not too sure on algebra. Let's see. So if Krishan has twice as many toys as Flo, and Lucy has 3 times as many as Krishan, Flo is our starting person. So we're going to say that Flo has X toys. Doesn't have the X, it could be question mark toys if it's some unknown. We're then told that Krishan has twice as many toys as Flo. So Krishan will have 2 lots of X. And then finally, we're told that Lucy has 3 times as many as Krishan. If Krishan has 2X, 3 times that is going to be 6X. So Lucy is going to have 6X. Now hopefully you can see, because we've chosen X, we've got a term for the amount of toys they all have, but it's in the same algebra, it's in the same terms, it's all in X, which means X plus 2X plus 6X, which is a grand total of 9X, is going to be equal to their total, because that's all of them added up, and we know they have 81 toys between them. So that means that 9x equals 81, so 9 times what? 9 times question mark equals 81. Well, 9 times 9 equals 81, which means that that x must be 9. And since we wanted to know what Flo is, and Flo just had x, well, she had 9. Job done. Number 18, what percentage of the shape is shaded? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there are 15 squares in total. And out of the 15, 1, 2, 3 are shaded. So 3 out of 15 is a fraction that simplifies down to 1/5. Now I have just happened to learn that 1/5 is equal to 20%, so I could stop there. However, if you haven't learned that, I will just show you, and this will also obviously work for more complicated things. Remember that percentage means per 100, so we're trying to get it out of 100. So I will just show you this. To go from 5 to 100, we need to multiply by 20. Therefore, we multiply the top also by 20. And this means that then 20 out of 100 means 20%, because that is what percentage is. It's per 100 or out of 100. So the method for any percentage, or for any fraction to percentage, simply have the fraction, somehow manipulate by timesing dividing, get it to equal 100, and then the number on top is the percentage. Job done. The winning car finishes the race in 3 hours 30 minutes at an average speed of 90 miles an hour. How far was the race? Well, again, it went 90 miles per hour. So in the first hour, it went 90 miles. In the second hour, it went 90 miles. In the third hour, it went 90 miles. And then in the last half an hour, it went half that distance, so 45 miles. That's perhaps the easiest way to think about this and interpret what 90 miles per hour means. And in this case, 90 plus 90 plus 90 is the same as 999, which is 27, so 270, and 270 plus 45 is going to be 315. You need to write that out or do it mentally. It's up to you. But 315 is my answer. Add 233 to 69. What do we get? Well, in this case, 3 and 9 make 12. 6 and 3 make 9 plus 1 makes 10. 2 and 1 makes 3. So 302. 21. The width of a square B is twice that of square A. So B is twice as big, so that's going to be my B. That's going to be my A. The perimeter of square A is 32, so that means the entire outside is 32. Remember, it's a square, so they're all the same. So that's going to be 32 divided by 4, because each of the sides are the same, which means each of the sides is going to be 8. And then if B is the width of the square is twice that of A, so that's going to be 16. And again, what is the perimeter of square B? Well, it's going to be 16 all around, so 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16, which is 16, 16, 32. Double it again, 64. So there's my answer. This time just centimeters, because perimeter is not area, so it's just a distance. Not too bad. 22. How many of these letters have 2 lines of symmetry? Well, only the I. I'm supposed to draw a sort of a larger version. Sort of a bit like that, a bit like a rectangle. There'd be 1 line of symmetry along that way, and 1 line of symmetry along there. So that has the 2 lines of symmetry, whereas none of the others do. B would have one that way, W would have one that way, E would have one that way, and C would have one that way, but only 1 in each of them. Number 23. Perimeter of this shape. Remember, with perimeter we need to know all the measurements, so we have to learn this one and this one. But of course, remember that if this entire length is 18, this red one here plus this 3 must equal 18, so that means this here is 15. And again, if this whole thing is 34 and this is 23, the blue line must make up the difference, so it's going to be 11. And now that I have all of these, I can simply add them up. So I can do 34 plus another 34 for these 2 measurements along the top, plus 18 down here, plus another 18 for these 2 here. If you add those together, you get a total of 104, which is the answer. Again, centimeters. What is the area of the shape? Oh, good question. So for this, I like to separate into 2. This is what we call a composite shape, so I'm going to split it into its 2 constituent shapes. The area of this one down here is going to be 11 times 3, so 33 centimeters squared. And the area of, let's do green, this one here, again picking the correct measurements, is going to be 18 multiplied by 23. And again, whatever your preferred method for doing this, 8 times 3 is going to be 24. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2, 18. 10 times 3 is 30. 10 times 20 is going to be 200. Add these 2 together. 4 plus 11 plus. So in this case, the area is going to be of this one here, 414. Mustn't forget then to add these 2 elements together, and 414 add 33 is going to be 744. So 477, again, centimeters squared. It's my final answer. 25. Pete's toy is £2.45 and Guy's is £1.78. How much more is Pete's die than Guy's in pence? So it's going to be the difference. So I've sort of broken my own rule here. Because it wants the answer in pence, let's just make sure I've converted them. So let's just rub out my dots, and now they're in pennies. And since it's a difference question, that's subtraction. So I want to be able to do 5 take 4. I can't do it again, so I'm going to have to borrow from the 2. So that means it becomes 1 and 14, which becomes 13 and 15. 15 take away 8 is going to leave me with 7. We've then got 13 take 7, that's going to leave me with 6. And 1 take 1, it's going to leave me with nothing. My answer is 67p, which you can see here. Number 6, calculate 5/6 plus 1/2. Again, always write these out. Remember, for any addition or subtraction, we need to convert the bottom number, the denominator, into the same of the fraction the same. So 6 and 12, and actually there's a trick here. By spotting, if I multiply this fraction top and bottom by 3, I'm going to end up with 5/6 plus 3/6. Now the bottom number, the numerator, sorry, the denominator is the same. The bottom number, the denominator is the same. I can add my fractions without issue. So 5/6 plus 3/6 is a grand total of 8/6. And this is a fraction that can be simplified. They're both divisible by 2. So 4/3 is my answer. If it asked you to leave it as a mixed fraction, I would transfer it as well. 27. The coordinates of point D are 6, 8. What will the coordinates be after it's reflected in the y-axis? Well, a reflection in the y-axis will maintain its height. At these 2 points here, reflected will be just as high. So the y value is not going to change. So the y value of 6 will be the same. However, the x value is going to be, instead of in this case being plus 8, it's going to be reflected just as far back to minus 8, which means my x coordinate will be minus 8, and my y coordinate will be 6. So that's how coordinates are: x first, y second, along the corridor up the stairs. So the answer is minus 8, 6 for that one. Colin got 90 marks in the exam, which was 60%. How many marks were relevant total? Well, this is a great question. So if 60% equals 90, that means 60 out of 100 equals 90 out of something. So we could unravel our equation to work out what the something is. I think probably then the fastest way of doing this would be to cross multiply to say then that 60 times our unknown something is going to be equal to 90 times by 100. And then from there we can say then that 6 times something, okay, a bit colourful now, is going to be equal to 9 times, the way I'd probably do this is 9 times 100 is 900, times 10 is 9,000. And then 9,000 divided by 6. Sorry, I've written it wrong. Divided by 60. Put that 0 back in, that sneaky 0. I was going to say it didn't look quite right. There's my colour. Means then 60 times this something equals 9,000. So again, last colour. My something is going to equal 9,000 divided by 60. I can already cross off the zeros and then do 900 divided by 6. I think just a simple bus stop is the way to go. 6 goes into 9 one time, remainder 3. 6 goes into 30 5 times. 6 goes into 0 1 times. 150. And so that's quite a good question, number 20. I mean, the one thing I have just thought about, actually, that might be worth mentioning, is that as well as doing 60 over 100, if I wanted to, you could preemptively simplify that, and it might make the numbers a little smaller. The large numbers can be intimidating. So in this case, 60% is going to be the same thing, 6 over 100, which is 6 over 10, and 6 over 10 is the same as 2 over 5. So you could start from the similar position, but start instead with 2 over 5. It's going to be equal over 90 divided by something. call that something x perhaps, another way of doing it. And going from here, you'll do the exact same steps with just slightly smaller numbers. So if you're a bit less confident about this question, that might be a starting place to try going off from and see if you can figure out what x is. That could be a fun way of doing it. Now, on to number 29. Wayne is 1.42 meters tall and Jackie is 128 centimeters tall. How many centimeters taller is Wayne than Jackie? So again, centimeters, let's put it all in centimeters. So 142 centimeters. The difference means subtract, so subtract 128 centimeters. Can't do 2 from 8, so I'm going to borrow, so that becomes a 3. Can make a 12. 12 take 8 is 4. 3 take 2 is 1, leaving us 1 take 1 and 0. So the answer is 14 centimeters. 30, I preempted this one a little bit by drawing a shape. How many parallel sides does a kite have? The answer is none. If you look here, I've tried to sort of exaggerate it by having quite a small top. This line here, on that side, let's change the color so it stands out. Let's get this line here is not parallel to this line here, despite them being opposite each other. They are very much going in different directions. If I was to sort of extend that line, you can see how, unlike train tracks, they cross. And if lines cross, they're not parallel. 31, name of the 8-sided shape is an octagon. And I suggest learning your shapes probably up to about 12. I think it's not a bad idea. Even, the 20-sided shape, icosahedron, you may want to learn as well. But certainly the first 10, I would make sure you know very comfortably. And even up to 12 would not be a bad idea. What is 5 to the power of 3 minus the second prime number? So 5 to the power of 3 is 5 cubed, which is 5 times 5 times 5. Wouldn't necessarily write that part out. Hope you would know that. But 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And 125, take away the second prime number. Well, the first prime number is the only even one, which is 2. The second prime number is 3. So we're going to be subtracting 3. And 125 take away 3 is 122. Many people make the error of assuming the first prime number is 0 or 1. And that is not the case, because a prime number requires 2 factors, and 1, if I was to list them, 1 only has 1 factor. So there's no second factor, whereas 2 has 1 in itself, 3 has 1 in itself. You can see there, look, 1 times 3, but in this case, it's 1 times 1, and you just list that as 1, so there's no second number, which is why 1 is not prime. Very common mistake, that one. Number 8, we've got 8a plus b equals 69, and 5b equals 25. It's a different colour. If 5 lots of b equals 25, that means 5 times b. I know that b is going to be 5 times 5 is 25, so b must therefore be 5. And now that I know that b equals 5, by rearranging an equation, I can substitute that fact into here. So I can now write 8a plus 5 equals 69. And now I've got it in just in terms of a, I can solve it. So 8a plus 5 can mean that 8a is going to equal 69 minus 5. So it's going to be 64. So what have I done in this step is essentially I've taken 5 from this side, and also from this side I've taken 5 from both sides. And now, very simple position, 8a means 8 times a. And if 8 times a is 64, what number can a be? Well, 8 times 8 is 64. Therefore, a equals 8 as a final step, again, because what we're actually doing is we're dividing both sides by 8. So that's the full working. Again, you would need to do as much as you require to become comfortable with answering that question. Let's get out of the way so we don't look at number 34. Here, 34. Calculate 40 plus 3 times 8 divided by 2. This is a classic BIDMAS, BODMAS question, which is brackets, indices come first, then decimals and multiplying, and then finally add and subtract. So in this case, the brackets need to be done first, so I like to do this in steps. So I'm going to do 40 plus, sort this out first, so 40 plus, 32, 24, then divided by 2. So that's my first step by simplifying what's in brackets. Now I look again, consider my BIDMAS, so divide comes before add. So I'm going to do 40 plus 12, and then that finally is 52. So for these, I think it is worth doing them in a couple of steps where you sort each thing out by its BIDMAS order, just to make sure you're happy. So again, just really list out BIDMAS. Again, some people have BODMAS, that's fine, it means the same thing. Indices or order, they both mean the same. Other, I've also heard people call it, oh, that's not very grown up, it still works. Something for you to learn. Right, last question of the whole thing, you're doing really well. 35, the cost of going to the cricket in pounds is 18A plus 8.50C, where A is the number of adults attending and C is the number of children attending. If 3 adults and 2 children come, how many go? Well, this is just actually a secret substitution. So I'm just going to rewrite this as 18A is going to be 18 times the number of adults, which is 3, plus £8.50 times the number of children times C. In this case, C is 2. So there's my sum. Again, let's just do BIDMAS. So I need to do 18 multiplied by 3 first. Again, you can probably do this in your head. That's 54. And £8.50 times 2. Again, I would just double 8 and then add double 50p. So £8 doubled is 16. 2 50p is £1, so that's going to be 17. And now we've got £54 plus 17, which you may well be doing in your head again. Gives us 71. And if at any point you can't do it in your head, again, just set it out with the method that you know and love, with a column multiplication or a column addition. So final answer, £71. And that, everyone, was 35 questions. So really well done with sticking me to the end. I hope that was useful. Congratulations on making this far. Of course, as always, if you have any questions, by all means get in contact. We do have another video that goes through paper 1, the English, so do look out for that if you've not seen it already. And thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Hopefully this was useful. We'll see you all again soon for some more. Bye-bye for now.